Okay, another response to a Remy video in my trademark, straight out of Eastern Europe, Russian accent, apparently. But yeah, Remy did a two-parter response. I don't know what good it is for us to keep doing the video exchanges just because he accused me of not dealing with the substance of his previous video, and I'm gonna go ahead and accuse him of not telling me whether or not he accepts the premise of does suffering matter more than, roasting marshmallows. Because if he says no, then there's no argument. And anyway, I'll get to the specific points he made, many of which dealt with the trolls, because the one on utilitarianism, it was just, a bunch of build-up and then the point at the end, which I saw coming from the get-go. But it was a nice story. Okay, so you mentioned, Remy, that you spoke about the trolls for about 15 seconds only in that first video that I mentioned in my by the way. Actually, you spoke about the trolls for a good 3 minutes. You say that Gary attracts trolls, rightfully so, basically because he has a self-inflated image. He dared to say that he's the smartest person on YouTube. Just FYI, I don't think he's only the smartest person on YouTube. He's probably the smartest person I've seen speak anywhere. And I've had my fair share of philosophy, online philosophy, but yeah, it's the same thing, really. And I don't see anyone who really uses their intelligence from a objective standpoint any more so than in Mendham. So I think that's the most important thing when you have intelligence, is to use it from a objective standpoint, not a bastard, prick, selfish standpoint. But anyway, if you think there's all these smarter people just on YouTube alone, I'd love for you to point me to them, because hey, if there's more interesting content, then I'd hate to be missing it. But I don't think there is. Because if there was, you wouldn't be putting all this time on YouTube dealing with me and Gary. You'd be conversing with all these other brilliant people who are apparently there are so many of them, right? Because you were just flabbergasted that Gary would dare think of himself as the smartest. So anyway, you said he sort of deserves the trolls because he does the ad hominems, and I'm sure I don't need to remind you that ad hominems aren't insults. Ad hominems are replacements for arguments, veiled in insults. So if you insult someone on top of making an argument, after you've made the argument, just a quick throwaway insult, it's not an ad hominem. I'm sure you know this, so I don't see why you mentioned it, that he uses ad hominems. You also said he makes straw men, and then you said you would provide an example if we asked you for one. And of course, we're going to ask you for one. I mean, Gary's been begging people to come up with examples of him strawmanning people for the better part of the last year. So I wish you would have just made it right then and there, because it wouldn't have taken too much time. Just bring up a quick example. No harm. And then, let's see. So you said, yeah, of course, you said uninformed videos last year. Uninformed, uneducated videos last year in terms of the subject of the Holocaust. And I don't see how you can call it uneducated when all he said was, okay, I disagree with this detail of the Holocaust. I accept that 6 billion, or what am I saying? I accept that 6 million Jews were executed. I just don't agree with every single nuance of how they were executed. To me, that's not ignorance, that's skepticism. I mean, it's not like he hasn't heard the official story, he's just doubting it. So to call him a Holocaust denier because he doubts a few things is bullshit. I'm not, I don't know if they were, I don't know if they weren't. I'm sure I'm gonna get people calling me a Holocaust denier now, but I'm more of a Holocaust agnostic, to tell you the truth. Just because people made these authority type stories on what happened, and then to be fair, a bunch of people have made and counteracted those, saying that a bunch of stuff didn't happen, to weigh it all in and be absolutely certain that one story is more or absolutely true as opposed to, you know, guesswork, that's, to me, that just reeks of fanaticism. I don't see why you're saying we can't truly fully condemn Nazi Germany unless we appreciate the exact manner in which these people were executed, even though we agree with you on the number of them that were executed. I think that's bullshit. No, I can fully condemn Nazi Germany just as much as you, without agreeing on, you know, just how many were gassed. And for you to say otherwise is just, I'm sorry, but that's just fanaticism. I can't see where the harm comes in simply wondering. I'm not even denying it. I'm just saying, okay, I'm not sure if this is the truth. I'm not sure if what the other side is saying is the truth either, because we know that just human history, the way it's written, you can't take it as absolute truth. It's I don't even know what the word for it is. Yeah, just it's skepticism 101, especially something that happened freaking almost 70 years ago. Something of that much impact. You defended Jones R, unfortunately, and he sort of said that's, you know, he had the right to make Gary laughingstock of YouTube based on this issue. No, people were waiting for a long time before the subject of the Holocaust came up to find a reason to grab onto something to make Gary the laughingstock of YouTube. So the fact that something ultimately came up is not the something's doing, it's the fact that people were waiting for something. Let's see. Yeah, Jones R makes substantive arguments through his, you know, satire videos. Look, I mean, when you take a philosophy that's so venomously against the status quo, like Gary's philosophy, obviously anyone can use satire to try to mock it or even make points based off it. Because it's just, even the people who completely disagree with it, like me, I can still find the humor in it because I still have that status quo perception of how, you know, what reality is. But then when I really think about it, I say, okay, yeah, it's funny, but it's also bullshit, because you actually, I mean, some of the things Jones R does, like, yeah, he talks about, it's mostly personality based, like, yeah, Gary only believes all this because he's a loser, or something like that. And then he shows pictures, you know, people happy running around in nature or something like that. Yeah, it can be funny, but it doesn't really have substance. And I can't believe he said with a straight face that Jones R makes good arguments through his, you know, satire. I mean, he's a guy who thought Captain Awesome made good arguments for atheism through his, you know, fuck Islam kind of stuff. And no, he didn't. Yeah, they were funny, but were they good arguments for atheism? No, it was amateur bullshit. So, what else was there in your video? As for the... Moving on to the utilitarianism, you brought up an example of organ donations and people being kidnapped. And look, obviously you take it to a preposterous extreme, like, yes, well, if 3 billion human beings have to be killed in order for just enough organs to be donated to 3,000,000,001 people, well, then of course you're going to paint a scary picture of utilitarianism. But I'm just saying, if we define what people's responsibilities are, it's just such a simple 2 + 2 equation that utilitarianism does make sense 99% of the time. If we just define what, okay, so let's see, do people have a responsibility to save someone's life through organ transplant? Is that a legit responsibility of a stranger? No. But then let's look at it some other way. Let's see if for instance, that woman who had the 14 kids a few months back, I'm sure you heard the story. I'm sure both of us agree that she should not have had the right to have those 14 kids. No way. So we would have to step on her individual rights to have those children based on the fact that she has a responsibility to the life, to the welfare of the life that she's creating. And there's no way she's going to ensure that responsibility. So in that case, it would make sense to restrict her individual rights based on an overall welfare of the life that she's imposing. I think we can distinguish what human beings have a responsibility to do and what they don't have a responsibility to do. And when they do have responsibilities, well then yeah, obviously the individual rights take a back seat.